Hey gamers, today we're going to look at the Merlin Big Box set. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is a table hog here. As you can see, I have all the expansions and everything set out. I'll put everything together, but I'm going to start with the base game and then move forward. So look at all this. I mean, this is insane. I will say that the Big Box has some wonderful, incredible inserts that really make the game worth getting, I think. All right, so let's go through this, starting with the base game. Now, the Big Box gives you this for extra cards. You can place cards on there, but we never use that. Anyway, so each player is going to start with 2 of these little quest cards. There's more over in the deck there. They're also going to start with 1 apple in their little player board, which is over here, as you can see here. They're going to start with 3 random invaders, and you'll just match up their color with the token underneath there. After that, every round they'll be gathering 1 additional raider. They'll start with each one of their 4 little player pawns here, each assembling different items that they can gather on the board. They're going to have the 100-point marker, of course. They're going to have their little disc on the 0 there. You're going to have your apples here, your invaders here, the thing reminding you about the score track here, and of course the round marker here basically just stands up there. This game goes over 6 rounds. You're also going to put out the Grail and the Excalibur in their spots. Merlin will go a different place here, and then your player, what you're going to do is you're going to basically just pick one of these 4 at random, flip it over, and that's where your guy's going to go. So my guy starts in brown, so I'd move him over to the brown area there. He's going to get 1 orange shield, so I'd add an orange shield to my player board. He's going to get 1 purple cube, so I add a purple cube to my player board. And he's going to start with 1 of his influences over in purple. So I would take 1 of my influence here and I put it over in purple. And basically that's how it's going to start. Now, of course, every one is different. Each one of these items you start in different areas in the game. You're also going to have these tiles randomly shuffled out there. I should mention there are queenies included in that. One of the queenies is extra map tiles there, but you're going to put these scrolls on either end there, top or bottom, doesn't matter, and then you're going to fill it out with X amount of tiles. You also have this optional player board that you can use as well. It's a different module in the base game, which is kind of fun. I'll explain more about that later. Your board, you're going to get 3 of your colored die. You're going to get 1 white die, which represents Merlin. You're going to get 3 of these staffs of your color, which represents Merlin staffs. It's basically when you cash these in, they're worth 3 victory points each at the end of the game. But if you cash 1 in, any of your die can be Merlin. You can move Merlin. You're going to have some seals as well. This is for the extra module I told you about. And of course, you are ready to start the game. First player token is this little crown here. And what you're going to be doing is you're each going to be taking turns and you're going to be moving around the board, picking one of the die and moving around the board. Now, all regular players have to move in a clockwise fashion, except for Merlin. He can go clockwise or counterclockwise. Of course, he can only go in one direction the entire time, meaning if you had my die as a 5, here, so if I wanted to use this, I would place it in the center in the base game. I am moving Merlin. I can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't do that. I got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then take that action on the rondelle. And this is what this is, just a giant rondelle. If I was to use one of my just regular actions, it'd be 3, and then I'd move this guy 3 spaces. Now, all the areas on the board are very self-explanatory. They basically tell you, but I'll kind of zoom in and give you a little peek at what each one of these do. And like I said, once you consult the rule book once, you'll know. But like this one, hey, for every shield you have, you get a victory point. Or for everywhere you have influence, you get a flag in that area. This one lets you plant down castles. Of course, this one gives you the Grail. This one gives you a victory point for every influence you have around. This one lets you shift one of your workers to one area or the next. And take that action. So they're very self-explanatory. These main areas here are where you're going to love to go, because once you get there, then you have a choice. You can play one of your 4 player pawns that you have on your board here. Now, depending on which one you choose, that is going to give you something. So if you play the lady, she'll give you influence. You play the man, the flag bearer, he gives you a flag. The knight gives you a shield, and this smithy guy gives you a cube. And as you see, there will be several of these. There'll be cubes, flags, and shields that you can get. Now, once you place your guy there, if I was to move to the gray area there, what if I wanted to get a shield here too? Well, all I'd have to do is just move this guy over to the shield space. Now, what if that was occupied by someone else? Well, my guy would bump his back to his player board. All right, so you'll have these, kind of randomly all around the area at times, and sometimes, of course, on your player board too. So what is the significance of getting these items? Well, let's go to the player board real quick. As you see, I have 3 invaders coming in from different areas. Now, I need to make sure that I have a shield there by the end of the round, or else I'm going to lose 3 points for each invader that's still there. And as you see, it has the -3 there. However, at the end of the round, if I have a shield there, then that defended my castle from that invader. He would go away, the shield would go away, and I'd only get -6 victory points. Now, it kind of sucks because every round you're going to be getting another invader coming across. So you're constantly going to be dealing with invaders, which is kind of why you need shields. Another reason you need shields is because you can get victory points for having a lot of shields as well. Now, why would I need cubes? Well, cubes can help you travel and plant castles onto this little map area. All right, so if I was to take this cube, depending on the color, it also tells you where you can plant it. So if it's blue, that means I could place a castle anywhere here or anywhere according to this row. Now, of course, you can't place a castle where there's another player, but in this example, let's say I was to place one of my nice little wooden castles in those areas. I could place it on any one of those rows. Now, in certain areas, you can get you can get special things like this one. I can get either a flag or put influence somewhere, or I can get any type of shield. Or if I went here, I get an apple and a victory point. I should also mention apples are fantastic to get in the game. Apples basically change your die to any number you want. So they're really awesome to have. And they're worth a victory point at the end of the game if you do not use them. There's other places you can go to get areas. Now, some places are just plain Jane areas. Why would I want that? Because at the end of the round, whoever has majority in any of the lands that are touching the same colors are going to get victory points. So for instance, let's say this is how it was. First round, I was the only one that placed a castle out there. Okay, well, I'm going to get the majority here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get 5 extra victory points, and I will still continue to get that every round as long as I have majority there. If someone were to have majority here, they get 3 victory points, 2 victory points, 1 victory point, But that's kind of why you want to put someone in some of those dead areas. But you need the cubes. So for instance, if I had a blue cube, I couldn't place a man here because the blue only goes on this row and this row. I'd have to get a purple cube to plant on this row, or maybe a black cube to plant right there. So getting the different type of cube depends on where you can plant your castle in that area. So that's what cubes are for. They can also give you victory points in the game. There's a Spawn the Rondale that also allows you to get victory points. In fact, it's right there. For every cube you have, you get a victory point. So that's another reason to get them. Now, the last one is the flags. The flags do different things in the game. Each one of these flags can symbolize different things. So for instance, what you do is when you grab a flag, let me go back to your player board, you'll basically just place it, and you see you have different colored flags here and here. So if I had a purple flag, I would just place it over there to the edge. And you can stack it up and have multiple flags of different areas, but you keep them until you want to use them. And you can use them whenever you want. So for instance, the purple flag obviously lets me flip a die. All right, if I get rid of it. This one lets me go counterclockwise instead of clockwise that turn. This one, the gray one, says, hey, these mission cards that we have, I forgot to mention these mission cards you complete at the end of the round. You can only complete one. Like I have to have my shield guy in the orange area, or for 1 victory point, or for 3 victory points, I have to have influence in purple, a black cube, and the Falcon Crest shield there. So it's a brown shield there. If I have all 3 of those, I will get 3 victory points. Now you can only complete one of these every turn, which is kind of aggravating because sometimes you can get both of them. But if I had the gray, I could cash this in and I could complete both of them. Yay! And then, of course, whichever one of these you complete at the end of the round, you're going to get 2 more cards, or up to 2 cards at the beginning of your next turn. So gray is really nice to have. The other ones are black. Black lets you get rid of an invader, which is really nice if you're having trouble getting shields. Brown lets you do a mirror action. So basically, let's say I was in gray here and I cashed in one of my brown flags. I could move my guy exactly opposite and do something in orange. Okay, maybe get an orange flag. Orange flag lets you move your character, but you get to take the action of another player. So if there was another player in another area, I could take that player's action instead of the one I'm on. And again, all players are moving Merlin, but only you're moving your specific color around the board. I should mention these special ones here. The Excalibur. Excalibur will if you have it, it's worth 3 victory points every round, and you will automatically get to defeat one of your invaders. You don't need a shield, but it's only one. You can only defeat one. So it'll help you from losing points in the round if you're having points like that. Grail I'll get to in a minute because that comes in handy for end-game scoring. Even though when you do get the Grail, I believe you are getting an apple at the end of every turn too, which is really nice. One of the few ways to get apples in the game. Now at this point, I want to talk about this extra module here. What it says is, this is optional, you can play in your game, but we always play with it. So if I was to complete this quest, I have my shield guy in the orange area. I can do 2 things. I can either take the victory point or use this and put one of my little seals on my little board here. So it is a knight there. So I look at the knight, there he is, put my seal over it. What does that mean? From here on out, any of these knight quests I finish, I'll get a +1 victory point. So later on, if I was to complete this one here, I would get 4 victory points instead of 3. And there's one for each type of character in the game. Now, again, like what if I was going to take this one? Instead of taking the 3 victory points, maybe I want to put another seal there, and I put my seal there, and it gives you extra things in the game. So this one says, hey, every time you get rid of a defender, you get a victory point. And each one gives you something different. The 2s and the 3s, and they're very self-explanatory. But that's what the extra module does. And of course, once you complete one or both of these, if you have the flag that lets you, the gray flag that lets you do them both, you will get back up to 2 more quest cards. But usually you can only do 1 at a time. I will also mention there is another Queenie here. I think it's King's Decree or the King's Scrolls or whatever. Basically, you're putting these out, so if you do land on one of the main little areas here, on top of getting something from that area, you can also pick from one of these 4 stacks and get the bonus. So if I was picking from this stack, I could go through it and say, oh, I want an extra flag. Now you would mix these up. These are all flags because I didn't mix them up, but you mix them up and you grab whatever bonus you'd want. Now, once you grab that stack, you can't grab and look at another stack. You have to grab something from that one stack. So these will eventually be gone by the end of the game, but that's just another one of the Queenies there. I should also mention for that second Queenie, there also is this little board here. There's 2 of them, so all players can see it. But you can also, after you've gotten the little individual reward from those little scrolls there, you can also cash them in to give you a plus or -1 on one of your die. If you have 2 of them, you can cash it in to get a random resource of your choice. Or here you have 3 and you can cash them in for 5 victory points. At the end of the round, once everyone has used their dice, it then is going to go to scoring. If you see this little orange area, will give you all of your scoring, gives you a reminder of what all needs to be scored in the game. So let's go ahead and get to that here. First off, I'm going to move the marker up to the second round, of course, but I'm going to look and see, hey, okay, did anyone who defended invaders? Great. Then they don't get negative minus points. Anyone who still has invaders there, they're going to get -3 points. Also, it tells me to add another invader for every player. And then it has a little icon of Excalibur, meaning, hey, don't forget the 3 victory points here. Of course, it says, hey, don't forget to add up, area control over in the castle area, over the tiles. And then over here it says, oh, okay, Grail, and then it has influence marker. So yeah, at the end of the round, you're going to be counting up your influence here in each one of these little areas here. And depending on the number of, and I don't have any other tokens here, but let's say these are all influence markers, in this area here, okay? And let's say I had a second red here, okay? So obviously I have 2, this player has 1, this player has 1, so I would get area control. How many points would I get? 4 victory points, because there's 4 of us in there. So the hotly contested ones, as you're adding more and more controller markers to them, are going to be worth more. If I was just to have 1 marker there, and let's say 1 marker there, then I would get 1 victory point here because I'm leading, and 1 victory point there because I'm leading. If it's a tie, no one gets points unless you have the Grail. The Grail breaks ties all around. And of course, because there's a limited number of influence markers and different castles, this is going to come in very handy when you're trying to resolve ties. That's making the Grail well worth it. Now, the last thing you count, you get victory points for all your characters that you have out here on the board, the little wooden characters. You'll get some extra victory points there. It seems like small victory points, but every victory point counts in this game. All right, so basically you're going to do this for 6 rounds, and of course whoever has the most points wins. Now let's go on to the author expansion. The author expansion is going to add author to it, and you're going to have a new wheel, and the big box set gives you wheels for each one of these expansions. Basically you'll line this up with the rest of it. Nothing really, some of the areas change, but you know, Excalibur will still be there. But there is also an additional item here, and this is the Signet Ring. The Signet Ring lets you complete 2 mission cards. So basically you won't need those gray flags anymore. In fact, they come with replacements for gray and black, this expansion does. Now black flags, you can use either one of these, but black flags now can give you a +1 or -1, making dice a 7 or even a 0, letting you take the same action as before. Or gray, which is really nice, it can change any one of your die to any other color. If you want to move author, the Merlin, or one of your characters. Now author is depicted by this black pawn, which will start in a random area there, and he can also move around the board both counterclockwise and clockwise as well. And let me move over to the author expansion here and basically tell you this is some of the stuff for author and the knights here, but I'll put them all together. You're also going to have this that you'll add to your board here with a black die, and now instead of putting your dice in the center of the game every time you use them, you're just going to put them in these little areas up here. There's a Merlin, there's 3 of your color as well. In this game there are little areas on the board, and we'll go back and we'll look at the Merlin, the author expansion. You see there's these little window spaces. Well, if you land on a window space, basically what you're going to do is move over to this board, and you're going to choose one of those little windows, and you're going to get the little prize. Maybe it's an apple, maybe it's influence marker in a certain spot, maybe it's a cube of a different color. Whichever one you pick, you know, maybe I want the apple because those are very powerful, and then I'm going to add it right there. Now the reason you're adding those, and then you'll bring out another one, then the next player will choose, and maybe this time I get this one. Now the reason this is big, because this also comes, I should also mention, with something that covers up the scoring track here, because there's an extra way to get victory points at the end of each round. End of each round, whoever has the highest number of these windows is going to get 3 victory points. On top of that though, whoever has the lowest number is going to lose 3 victory points. And as you see, the nicer the prize, the free gift, the lower the number. Or, you know, maybe like cubes, which, you know, maybe are the least valuable, they're a 6 right there, where influence markers are only a 5. Again, I really like that, but it's just another person to move around in the game. So now you're dealing with 3 different kind of characters walking around 2 different rondelles. Now the Knights expansion basically brings the Knights of the Round Table into the game. What you have is some A and B stack of cards. Each player will get 2. They'll look at them, choose one, discard the other. They give you just special abilities in the game. The rule book is very simple, tells you what each one does, and you get to use them. Either they're temporary, you know, they're only limited, like this guy has 2 extra castles, or they're permanent. This guy, whenever he goes to a place, he can get any one of those 3 regardless of who he puts down. So they can just basically help you out, and that's the Knights kind of, it's an expansion, a regular expansion, but like a mini expansion that goes with it. All right, finally we have the Morgana expansion, and this is a doozy too. I'm going to kind of put as much together as I can for you, but first off, I do want to talk about these extra boards that come with it. Basically, you place these on over the regular spots of the game board, and it just changes up areas on where to go. Like this one, if you go here, you can, when you put one of your characters here, you can trade. This one, when you put, or you can get influence, of course. This one, this is for shields. This is how you get any colored cube. This is how you get any colored flag, and so on and so forth. That's how you get either one of these, mistletoe and apples. Mistletoe I'll explain in a minute. Or this one, you can get gold coins, which also comes with the Morgana expansion. If you love Morgana, you're going to play with this expansion a lot. I love how this kind of resets everything on places on the board and everything, and basically kind of changes up the game too. But anyway, in the Morgana expansion, you are basically doing a ton of different things here. Let me talk about the first one. These are all just little extra modules you can add or take and add. You can add them all together if you want. You have coins and mistletoe. Mistletoe can replace an item that you need to complete it on one of your cards. So for instance, let's say I didn't have influence in purple, but I had the other two. I could use my mistletoe and that would be completed. Once I use it, of course, it goes away. I should mention, there is another player board, an additional player board that you would add now to the center of the board game that adds all the things like mistletoe and apples and things from or gold coins from the Morgana expansion right there. And you just add that to the middle of the game board. Gold coins, what are these? When you get one of them, you can go to the market if you want to, or if you have two of them, at the end of the game, each two that you have left over are worth 3 victory points. Now, I will talk about this because this is very neat. Another reason you can use coins is going to the market. That's the lower tile here. Basically, you discard one of your mission cards, quest cards in your hand, and pay a coin. Once you do that, the market is available, my friend, and you can get whatever you want. You can get a shield of any type you want. You just take the shield from there. Now, once it's gone from the market, it's gone for good. Or you can take a certain type of cube that you just couldn't get around to that you really need. You can take it from the market. That's really awesome. Or you can give one of your influence markers a +1, which will help you win ties without having to get the grail, which is really good. Or you can get one of these that count either as a mistletoe or an apple, your choice. Or you can get one of these little tokens 1 through 6 here, which is basically just a free action. You get to move X amount of spaces. You think I'd always want to pick the 6? No, you want to pick a certain one, so you can get basically a free movement action to move your guy that many spaces to take an additional action. You also have the Morgana board here, which things get really crazy now. You're rolling purple die every round, and on one of your turns, basically you're just going to exchange one of your die and use one of the purple die. Now, whenever you do that, you have a lot of options here. You can cash in whatever die that is to use any one of these. This is a 1 and a 2, 2 and a 3, a 3 and a 4, 4 and a 5, a 5 and a 1. Okay, a 6 can basically do any of these actions. So you get to choose the number and then choose the action. Now there are these tokens that, the cardboard tokens that are double-sided as well, and you can mix them up. So each game will be different, and I absolutely love that. And by the way, these are very easy to understand. The rule book will let you know. Now, once you take the first die, that's when Morgana's star comes out. And her star goes on one of the principalities over here, basically blocking it from the game. So I can place it here, and from now on out, no one can use that action. Now, once you bring the star in, that's going to be in play for the rest of the game, because every time you're coming over here and you're getting another purple die, it says, hey, if you take whatever action you take, you need to shift that star either 1, 2, or 3 spaces on the board, in that certain direction, blocking out another principality. So really neat. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but and you can read the rule book on this. It has these little hex markers, the influence markers, and little Morgana houses that do different things in the game, and that's if you're taking one of these actions here. Or you can get any of these die and get a poison apple. What a poison apple does, a poison apple basically has forces someone to trade dice with you, trade pips. So maybe I have a 5, someone else has a 2. I really need that 2, so I make them change theirs to a 5, and I change mine to a 2 when I use my poison apple, basically just screwing other players. Now, there is another item here. It is the little horn here, a little drinking vassal horn. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's a horn. But what you're going to do, if you can get this die, any of these die to 6, or I mean 7. So if I had a 6, I could pay either a coin. I should also mention that coins can also be used to give a plus or minus to the die if you wanted to. So if I wanted, and making it a 7 or a 0. And so if I wanted to add 1 coin to this, it'd be a 7. If I was you can also do cubes too. If you have extra cubes, you can also do that to mitigate the roll. So again, If I had a 5, I could pay 2 cubes and make that a 7. If I was to do that, and this is going to be a hotly contested item here, I'm going to get 1 victory point and a poison apple. Huzzah! All right. Now, after that, if you keep the horn, you're always going to be getting a poison apple and a victory point. But every round, you're going to get victory points according to what round it is. So in the second round, it's worth 2 points. Third round, it's worth 3 points. So you can get up to I think that's 21, 22 points at the end of the game if you hold this the whole time, which you won't. It will be hotly contested. But anyway, that is the Morgana expansion. Final thoughts. What do I think about the game? Well, I have to give a shout out to my buddy Josh. He's the one that got me to back this. He just has the base game. He loved it. I was looking at the big box because it's Queen Games that Stefan failed. I went, that's usually a good hit. He said, get it, get it, get it. I'm so glad I did. I love rondelles, and this is the ultimate rondelle game. This is probably my favorite rondelle game, I think, too. It is amazing. It's amazing. And with all the expansions added to it, the game just gets better. Let me go through the base game here. The base game, really a lot of fun. To be honest, after a while, well, using all the expansions now, apples aren't that important. We were using apples here and there, but I was just saving up any apple I got for just those extra victory points at the end. Even small victory points matter. And the thing is, at first, I didn't really understand how the game was working the first 2 rounds. You don't want to focus too much on invaders, because usually at the very beginning they're a problem. Then after that, they're really not a problem. In fact, I'm kind of disappointed. That should be more of a threat, because the only reason to get shields toward the end of the game is to land on that one spot that gives you victory points for shields. That's really the only reason to get shields going forward. But other than that, the base game alone, if you were just to get the base game, I think you'd have a lot of fun there. Because like I said, you're just manipulating die. You're using Merlin's staff to move him instead of one of your characters. Because Merlin you can move him around more. But you can get screwed over if you wait too long to move Merlin, because someone else has moved him, and now your dice won't go to those exact spots you need. I love that in the game. It's like almost like a double rondelle in a way. And so you're trying to think of ways, how can I get there? By the way, all the flags are awesome. You can basically, after a while, toward the end of the game, if you have enough flags, you can basically go anywhere you want on that game board, anywhere you want with the expansions. And I love that, because you're manipulating those die to go to those specific areas to get victory points. And every little victory point counts. You're adding up little points here and there. And of course, the area control and some of the castles are going to be hotly contested, especially you have tiles that we had one that formed like a 9-pointer, and of course we were all fighting over that one. But it's very interesting. I absolutely love the base game. Now, the author expansion, I won't play without that. And I think if you just have the base game, you're cheating yourself out of a great game, because author makes it better. It's a double rondelle at that point. One complaint there is the windows after a while. It doesn't really matter what the prize is. You just start getting the highest number, because you don't want to lose victory points. You always want to gain those victory points too. And I mean, it is nice to get something, unique or something, some special bonus at the beginning there. But after a while, you're tired of losing those points. You want to get up on those windows ahead of someone else. I like that. I like the signet ring, where you can now complete 2 without using the gray flag. And they've replaced the gray and black flags, which I think are much better and much more desirable than the previous ones. There's a lot of stuff in that author expansion I absolutely adore. Moving on to the Knights of the Round Table, that's just like a mini expansion for the game, but it's worth it too, because it's extra player abilities. And I'll be honest, I've seen where people will change their game type so they can get more victory points based on what knights they got. And by the way, it's very thematic, right? So Knights of the Round Table, and here's all the knights that were part of King Arthur's court. Absolutely love that. Very thematic. But you will use those super abilities that you have. You'll utilize them, and I've noticed it changes people's gameplay. We played with them each time. One time, everyone, including me, forgot to use them. And then the second time we started using them and saw our game just completely change. It was really, really awesome. Another one, the other expansion is the Morgana expansion. Just about love everything here. I like the coins because I love going to the market. The mistletoe was a huge hit with my gaming group. They loved getting that mistletoe, because some of those 3-pointers quests are just so hard to get at times that you have 2, but you just can't get that other one in time. So getting the mistletoe was a big deal for them. For me, it was the coins and going to the market, grabbing any extra resource I needed, or one of those little extra die to move to change my die. I loved that. I really love the market, or getting the apple slash, mistletoe token. That was really cool. So the market, awesome. The one that we had it, we played it, and we only used it maybe once, maybe just to get the horn or whatever. The Morgana expansion with the purple dice. I was super excited. It's always the expansion, the module that I'm super excited about, turns to be the one that's the worst. And I say the worst because, of course, when that Morgana star comes out there, you start screwing with other players. Of course, you get to do several different options, but when you add that in with already you're looking at a triple rondelle going on, a rondelle within a rondelle, and you have Merlin going around through the rondelle too, both ways. So you become too engrossed in adding Morgana, actually just the Morgana realm with the purple houses, the purple influence markers, the purple whatever. People just don't care at that point. It's just like too many choices for that. The horn they can lock onto, and that's basically the only thing we ever use for it. But moving that star around, no one really liked doing that either. So taking advantage of those, even though there are some nice things, and of course Morgana is supposed to be meddling with everyone. Probably the least favorite module in it. I love the expansion as a whole. I do think you need to get it, but that module wasn't that good. Now maybe if it's just by itself, you take out author and everything. I don't know why you do that. Maybe you would, but I'll always have it available in the game, the Morgana expansion, but I highly doubt anyone will fully utilize that one, especially when you're trying to play all the games at once, which I think you can. For beginners, I would say use them all but Morgana. It kind of blew their mind the first time I tried to add them all together. I did another game, took this one out, and then adding it later on, and that went a lot smoother. But the first 3 expansions, they did really good on those. My gaming group did. The Queenies, the first one, the extra tiles, that's fine for the maps. I don't care. The other one with the little scrolls, that was interesting. The only thing is, 2 things. A, sometimes you forget to get the scroll until like 2 turns later, like, oh, I forgot to do my scroll. Dude, you gotta remind me. There's too much going on here. And then the other thing is analysis paralysis. I love how when you pick up one stack, that's it. You can't look through anymore. And thank God for that, because we had one guy looking through the stack going, do you want this one or this one? Or maybe this one. Analysis paralysis kills you on that second Queenie. Kills you. Not me, but people who have AP suffer bad on that second Queenie. So maybe I won't be playing with that one every time, I don't think, especially if I know someone has AP. Other than that, though, this game is amazing. It is incredible. It is a Queen game. It is Stefan Feld. It is awesome. Best rondelle game out there on the market right now. If you have the base game, get the expansion. If you don't have any of it, get the big box. It's actually worth it. All right, gamers, that's all the time I have for now. Until next time, you know what to do. Game on.